Decoded.
Welcome to Book Decoded. If you're here, I'm guessing you love to learn new things. And you probably like getting to the good stuff without having to spend hours reading, am I right?
That's most of us, I think.
Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Today we're diving into a book that's all about unlocking the secrets of communication. It's called, get this, Communication Skills Training: How to Talk to Anyone, Connect Effortlessly, Develop Charisma, and Become a People Person.
Wow, that's quite a title.
It is, right? By James W. Williams. So if you've ever felt like, man, I wish I could just say things the right way, or how do some people just connect so easily? This one's for you. We're going to break it all down. The big ideas, the actionable stuff, the interesting stories, facts, you name it, all to help you boost your communication game.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so the book starts off with this really cool idea. Being a great communicator isn't some kind of superpower you're born with. It's a skill, just like learning to play the guitar or bake a cake. Anyone can do it with the right tools and practice.
I like that. Because, you see these incredibly charismatic people and you think, oh, they were just born that way. But chances are they weren't. They worked at it.
Exactly. They learned and practiced and honed their skills. And that's something anyone can do.
Right. And it's important to remember that communication goes way beyond just the words you say.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a whole package deal. Your tone of voice, your body language, the way you look at someone, it all plays a part.
It's like a puzzle where all the pieces fit together to create the complete picture.
Exactly. And here's a point the book really emphasizes, which I think is so important. Communication is a two-way street. It's not just about getting your message across. It's also about listening, truly listening to the other person. And that means paying attention not only to their words, but to their nonverbal cues as well.
Like their facial expressions, their posture, even the way they're breathing.
Right. It's about picking up on all those subtle signals and responding accordingly.
It's like a dance, you know? You have to be in sync with your partner to make it work.
I love that analogy. And just like with dancing, there's no one right way to communicate. You wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your best friend, would you?
Definitely not.
So the book highlights this idea of adapting your communication style depending on who you're talking to.
Makes sense. You have to consider their perspective, their background, their communication preferences. It's all about making that connection.
Absolutely. So speaking of different ways of communicating, the book actually breaks down communication into 4 main types: verbal, nonverbal, written, and visual. Let's start with verbal, which is basically what we're doing right now. Seems pretty straightforward, but there's more to it than you might think. Because even though words are powerful, they can easily be misinterpreted without the right tone of voice and body language to support them.
Oh, yeah. Think about how many times you've sent a text message and the person on the other end completely misread your tone.
All the time. And that's why verbal communication is so nuanced. There's a whole range of styles, from people who are very verbose and use lots of big words to people who are very concise and to the point.
And everything in between.
Exactly. And then we have nonverbal communication, which is all about those physical gestures and facial expressions we use to convey meaning. A simple smile can tell someone you're happy to see them, while a furrowed brow might signal that you're confused or concerned.
It's amazing how much we can communicate without even saying a word.
Right. A hug can speak volumes, can't it?
Definitely. More than words sometimes. Okay, so what about written communication?
Written communication. That's where things get really interesting. Because unlike spoken words, which fade away as soon as they're uttered, written words have a sense of permanence. Think about books, letters, emails. They can be read and reread, shared and analyzed long after they were created.
It's like leaving a trail of your thoughts and ideas for others to follow.
Exactly. And the book actually mentions some pretty heavy hitters in the world of written communication, like Sun Tzu and Shakespeare. Their words have continued to resonate for centuries.
Yeah, their writing has shaped our culture and continues to influence us today.
That's the power of written communication. And it's why it's so important to be clear and accurate in your writing.
Your words can have a lasting impact.
Absolutely. And finally, we have visual communication, which is all about using images to convey meaning. Think about paintings, photographs, even symbols and icons.
It's like that old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Exactly. And sometimes a visual can communicate something in a way that words simply can't.
It's a powerful tool for storytelling, persuasion, and even just evoking emotion.
Absolutely. And it's all around us,
Yeah.
from the logos of our favorite brands to the street signs that guide us through our cities.
So we've got these 4 types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, written, and visual. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to be aware of all of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but why should I care about improving my communication skills? Well, the book lays out some pretty compelling reasons. And one of the biggest ones is trust building.
Trust. That's huge in any relationship, whether it's personal or professional.
Right. And when you can communicate effectively, you build trust because you're showing people that you're reliable, you're honest, and you're willing to listen.
It's about showing up authentically and being present in the conversation.
Exactly. And another major benefit of good communication is problem solving, or even better, preventing problems in the first place.
I like the sound of that.
Think about it. How many arguments or misunderstandings have you had that could have been avoided with clearer communication?
Oh, probably countless.
Right. And the book gives this great example. Imagine you're complimenting a friend on their new haircut.
Hmm.
You could say, wow, I didn't realize you could look this good. But that might come across as a bit backhanded. Right. Whereas if you say, you look fantastic, that haircut really suits you, it comes across as much more genuine and positive.
It's all about framing things in a way that is constructive and supportive.
Exactly. And good communication can also bring a lot more clarity and direction to your life, especially when you're working with others on a project or goal. When everyone is on the same page and understands their roles and responsibilities, things tend to run much more smoothly.
And who doesn't love a little more clarity and direction in their life?
Seriously. It's like having a roadmap instead of just wandering around aimlessly. And the book also talks about the importance of diplomacy and communication.
Diplomacy, that sounds kind of fancy.
It's really just about being tactful and considerate, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics or difficult conversations. Being able to give constructive criticism without making the other person feel attacked.
Right, finding that balance between honesty and kindness.
Exactly. And at the core of clarity is being direct and concise. No one wants to wade through a rambling explanation when a simple, straightforward answer will do.
Time is precious.
It is. And clear communication shows respect for other people's time.
Okay, so we've got trust building, problem solving, clarity, and direction. What else?
Well, let's not forget about relationships.
Oh, yeah. Communication is the foundation of any healthy relationship.
Right. And the book emphasizes that good communication can help you build stronger, more fulfilling relationships across the board, whether it's with your partner, your family, your friends, or your colleagues.
It's about creating deeper connections with the people around you.
Exactly. And when you communicate effectively, you show people that you respect them, that you value their opinions, and that you're willing to listen.
It's about showing up authentically and being present in the conversation.
Exactly. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. And that goes back to the importance of nonverbal communication as well.
It's like that saying, actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. And the book also highlights the importance of being able to read and respond to cues in communication.
Cues. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's about paying attention to the subtle signals that people are sending, both verbally and nonverbally. For example, if you're giving a presentation and you notice that people are starting to look bored or distracted, that's a cue that you need to adjust your approach.
Maybe tell a joke or change the subject to something more engaging?
Exactly. It's about being aware of your audience and adapting your communication style accordingly.
It's like reading the room, right?
Exactly. And finally, strong communication skills can also lead to improved productivity.
Now we're talking. Who doesn't want to be more productive?
Right. And when you can communicate effectively, you can get things done more efficiently and with less stress.
Wow.
Because everyone knows what's expected of them, and there's less room for misunderstandings or miscommunications.
It's like a well-oiled machine. Everything runs smoothly when communication is clear.
Precisely. So, as you can see, there are a lot of benefits to improving your communication skills. But what does it actually take to be a good communicator? Well, the book lays out some key qualities that I think are worth highlighting.
Okay, let's hear them.
First up is active listening. And this isn't just about sitting there quietly while the other person talks.
It's more than just hearing the words, right?
Right. Active listening is about truly engaging with the speaker. It's about paying attention to both their verbal and nonverbal cues, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting back what you've heard to make sure you understand.
It's about showing the speaker that you're present and that you care about what they have to say.
Exactly. And when you listen actively, you build rapport with the other person. You create a sense of trust and mutual understanding.
Makes sense. Okay, what else?
Another important quality is empathy. And this is about being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and see things from their perspective.
It's about understanding where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with them.
Exactly. And empathy is essential for building strong relationships because it allows you to connect with people on a deeper level.
It's about seeing beyond the words to the person behind them.
Exactly. And when you can do that, you create a space for open and honest communication.
Okay, empathy. Got it. What's next?
An open mind. And this means being willing to consider different perspectives and to challenge your own assumptions.
It's about being curious and receptive to new ideas, even if they're different from your own.
Exactly. And an open mind is essential for effective communication because it allows you to learn from others and to expand your own understanding of the world.
It's about being willing to be wrong and to change your mind when presented with new information.
Absolutely. And finally, a positive mindset can make a huge difference in how you communicate. Because when you're positive and enthusiastic, it's contagious.
It rubs off on the people around you.
Exactly. And it makes people more receptive to your message.
So good communicators are active listeners, they're empathetic, they're open-minded, and they have a positive attitude. That's a pretty good recipe for success, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But even with all the best intentions, communication can still go wrong.
Oh, tell me about it.
And the book actually spends quite a bit of time exploring the barriers to effective communication. Because, sometimes it feels like we're speaking different languages, even when we're using the same words.
Right. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Exactly. And the book kicks off this section with a quote from George Bernard Shaw, the famous playwright, which I think really sums it up. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Ooh, that's deep.
It is. Because it highlights that just because you said something, it doesn't mean that the other person actually understood it the way you intended.
Right. We often assume that our message is clear, but there could be all sorts of things getting in the way.
Absolutely. And the book breaks down these barriers into several categories. First, there are physical barriers, which are basically anything in the environment that can interfere with communication.
Like loud noises, bad lighting, or even just being too far away from the person you're talking to.
Exactly. And these are usually the easiest barriers to address. You can move to a quieter location, turn up the lights, or just get closer to the person.
Simple fixes.
Right. Then we have language barriers, which can be a bit trickier. And this isn't just about speaking different languages. It can also be about using jargon or technical terms that the other person doesn't understand, or even just having different communication styles.
Like some people are very direct and to the point, while others are more roundabout.
Exactly. And it's important to be aware of these differences and to adjust your communication style accordingly.
Right, because what might be clear to you might be completely confusing to someone else.
Absolutely. Then there are psychological barriers, which are more internal. These can be things like anxiety, fear of public speaking, or even just low self-esteem.
Right, those internal voices that can really hold us back.
Exactly. And these barriers can be more challenging to overcome, but it's important to address them if you want to communicate effectively. Because if you're not feeling confident in yourself, it's going to show in your communication.
It's about working through those internal blocks to allow your true self to shine through.
I like that. Then we have emotional barriers, which are basically anything related to our current emotional state.
Like if you're feeling angry or stressed, it's going to affect how you communicate, right?
Exactly. And it can also affect how you interpret other people's communication. So it's important to be aware of your own emotional state and to take a step back if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Don't send that angry email when you're still fuming.
Exactly. Better to wait until you've calmed down and can think more clearly. And then there are cultural barriers, which are related to the different ways that people from different cultures communicate.
Right, because what's considered polite in one culture might be considered rude in another.
Exactly. And even things like eye contact and personal space can vary widely from culture to culture.
It's so important to be respectful of these differences.
Absolutely. And then there are attitude barriers, which are basically our own personal biases and beliefs.
Like if you have a negative attitude towards someone, it's going to come out in your communication, right?
Exactly. And even if you don't realize it, your attitude can affect how you listen to and interpret what other people are saying.
It's like wearing tinted glasses. You're only seeing the world through your own narrow perspective.
Exactly. And it's important to be aware of these biases and to challenge them, because they can really get in the way of effective communication.
Okay. Attitude barriers. Got it. Anything else?
One more category,
Mm.
organizational barriers. And these are related to the structure of organizations and how they can sometimes hinder communication.
Like in a really hierarchical company, it might be difficult for employees to communicate openly with their superiors.
Exactly. And there might be a lot of red tape and bureaucracy that makes it hard to get your message across.
Right, all those hoops to jump through.
Exactly. So those are the main barriers to effective communication. And as you can see, they can be pretty complex. But the good news is that once you're aware of these barriers, you can start to overcome them.
It's about being mindful and intentional in our communication.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some common communication mistakes that people make, and more importantly, how to avoid them.
Sounds good. Let's hear it.
Okay, mistake number one, not really listening. And I know we've talked about active listening already, but it's worth repeating because a lot of people think they're listening when they're really
It's
not.
easy to get distracted, right?
Right, especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information.
Our phones are buzzing, emails are popping up. There's always something vying for our attention.
Exactly. So it takes a conscious effort to really focus on the person you're talking to and to block out all the distractions.
It's about being present in the moment.
And it's about paying attention not only to the words that are being said, but to the nonverbal cues as well.
Right, like their tone of voice, their body language, their facial expressions.
Exactly. All those things can give you valuable insights into what the other person is really thinking and feeling.
Okay, so not really listening. What's mistake number 2?
Interrupting.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It is. And it's so easy to do, especially when you're excited about a topic or you have something important to say. But interrupting can make the other person feel like you're not really interested in what they have to say.
It can be disrespectful.
It can. And it can also derail the conversation because you're both talking over each other and no one's really listening anymore.
Right, it becomes a competition instead of a collaboration.
Exactly. So the next time you're tempted to interrupt, just take a breath and let the other person finish their thought.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. What about mistake number 3?
Assuming. And this is about assuming that you know what the other person's going to say before they say it.
Oh, yeah. We all do that sometimes.
We do. But it can be really frustrating for the other person because it makes them feel like you're not really listening to them.
It's like you've already made up your mind about what they're going to say, so why bother listening?
And it can also lead to misunderstandings because you might be basing your assumptions on incomplete information.
So how do we avoid making this mistake?
By asking questions. Instead of assuming, just ask the other person to clarify what they mean.
That makes sense. It's about staying curious and open-minded.
Exactly. And mistake number 4 is emphasizing the incorrect nouns.
Okay, that one sounds a little complicated. What do you mean by that?
It's about using language that puts the other person on the defensive. For example, instead of saying, "you always do this," you could say, "I feel frustrated when this happens."
Oh, I see. It's about taking ownership of your feelings instead of blaming the other person.
And it's about using I statements instead of you statements.
Right, because you statements can sound accusatory, whereas I statements are more about expressing your own experience.
And it's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference in how your message is received.
Okay, so emphasize the correct nouns. Got it. What's the next mistake?
Being an emotional responder. And this is about letting your emotions dictate how you communicate.
Like, if you're feeling angry, you might say things that you later regret.
And that's why it's so important to be aware of your emotional state and to take a step back if you're feeling overwhelmed. It's better to wait until you've calmed down and can communicate more clearly. And mistake number 6 is plain misinterpretation. And this is about simply not understanding what the other person is saying.
We all been there.
We have. And it can happen for a variety of reasons. Maybe the other person isn't being clear, or maybe you're distracted, or maybe there's just a lot of noise in the environment.
Right, or maybe there's a cultural difference that's leading to a misunderstanding.
So if you're not sure what the other person means, just ask them to clarify.
Don't be afraid to say, "I'm not sure I understand. Can you explain that again?"
It's better to ask for clarification than to just nod along and pretend you understand when you don't.
Right, because that can lead to even bigger problems down the road.
And mistake number 7 is being vague.
Vague.
It's about not being specific enough in your communication.
So instead of saying, "I need this done soon," you should say, "I need this done by Friday at 5 p.m.
Exactly. Because soon means different things to different people.
Right. One person's soon is another person's next week.
So be as specific as possible in your communication. It will save you a lot of time and hassle in the long run.
Okay, being specific. Got it. What's the next mistake?
not accounting for cultural differences. And we've talked about this a little bit already, but it's worth reiterating. Because even if you're speaking the same language, there can be subtle cultural differences that can lead to misunderstandings.
Right, like in some cultures, it's considered rude to make direct eye contact, while in other cultures, it's considered a sign of respect.
So it's important to be aware of these differences and to adjust your communication style accordingly.
Do your research.
Yes. Learn about the culture of the people you're communicating with. And don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
It's about showing that you're trying to be respectful.
And mistake number 9 is the ad hominem fallacy.
Okay, that one sounds familiar. Refresh my memory.
It's about attacking the person instead of the argument.
Oh, yeah. Like if someone disagrees with you, and instead of addressing their point, you just insult them.
And that's never a productive way to communicate.
Yeah.
Because it just shuts down the conversation.
Right. It's about winning at all costs instead of trying to have a meaningful dialogue.
So if you want to have a productive conversation, stick to the facts and avoid making personal attacks.
Okay, no ad hominem attacks. What's the last mistake?
Deflecting or delaying. And this is about avoiding difficult conversations.
We all do that sometimes, right?
We do. But it's usually not the best approach. Because those difficult conversations are often the ones that need to happen the most.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. The longer you wait, the more it's going to hurt.
So the next time you're tempted to deflect or delay a difficult conversation, just take a deep breath and dive in.
Face it head on.
And remember to be respectful and compassionate, but don't shy away from those tough conversations, because they're often the ones that lead to the most growth.
So we've talked about the benefits of good communication, the qualities of a good communicator, the barriers to effective communication, and some common communication mistakes.
That's a lot.
It is, but it's all really important stuff. And I think it's worth taking the time to reflect on our own communication habits. What are we doing well? And what areas could we improve in?
I agree. And I think one of the most important things is to just be aware of how we're communicating. Pay attention to our words, our tone of voice, our body language, and be willing to adjust our approach as needed.
It's a lifelong learning process.
Absolutely. And the more we learn about communication, the more effective we'll become at connecting with others and building strong relationships.
Awesome. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to go out and have some really great conversations.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired as well.
I hope so. And if you want to learn more about the power of communication, we highly recommend checking out Communication Skills Training by James W. Williams.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to improve their communication skills.
Absolutely. And that's it for this episode of Book Decoded.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.